Hi, my sweet lifers. It's Alisa Murray here. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm hanging out today with my dear friend Jacquelyn, and we are talking about some things today that I don't want my littles to hear. We're going to be talking about some funeral planning and getting things ready for when we're not here anymore. So if you guys have accidentally clicked on this episode, as you always do when you're following me, you might want to click off or just be forewarned that the subject matter today is not necessarily sweet. So I want to make sure that we are aware of that before we get started. So you guys know that we did the big book launch for Journeys of Goodbye back in the fall. And Jacquelyn was there as one of our sponsors and one of the people that were there at the church after we did the book signing. And we became friends, and she has a lot of information, really good information that she needs to share with you guys and get you thinking about things that you just might not be wanting to think about, but we all have to think about. So I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Happy to be here. Happy to share the information.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of things to talk about. We've got the idea. The first thing is that we need to let everybody know, in case you forgot, that you're going to die. So let's go there first. Let's just sort of put that out there on the table. And people don't want to talk about it. We talked about that at the book signing. We talk about that in the book too. People just roll their eyes and they just take a deep breath. Some take a big puff and turn around and walk the other direction. But the truth is that we want to get it figured out before we're gone. Because if we don't, stuff happens that might not be what you want to have happen. Like, you might not have things read that you want read. I know personally for me, and you guys know that, like, I wrote in my column probably 15 years ago that I would be cremated, I would be put in a Louis Vuitton, there would be a secular service with AC/DC and martinis and all kinds of craziness, and then there would be a church service. And now that I've gone to seminary, you know that I've ditched the secular service altogether. We're not doing that anymore. That's been cut off the program. But you got to have a plan, because if you don't have a plan, people are crying, they're sad, they're grieving, they can't think straight, they don't know what you want. They don't know what Bible scriptures you want read, or if you even want Bible scriptures read. They need to know what to do. And it's just important to get it figured out. So that's the first thing, is that we need to get out there, you know. And when you visit with families, what's sort of the first things that you do?
Well, within the first 24 hours of someone passing, there's probably 100 questions that need to be answered. Legal questions, family questions, financial questions, property, all the stuff. And the worst thing is when it's not planned ahead of time, your loved one, whether it's your spouse, your children, or your next of kin, someone has to come in and sit across from a table from a funeral director and answer those 100 questions while they are grieving, while they're trying in the back of their head to think if they've notified the loved ones that need to start making travel plans, whether they've done everything, where is my loved one now? And the funeral director sitting there patiently saying, I'm really sorry, but we have to get all these questions answered.
Yeah.
And they sometimes, they can't remember their mother's maiden name or the social security number and all these things that have to be done so we can get the death certificate, so we can make the arrangements. A lot of people these days are saying, oh, well, I'm just going to be cremated. Well, it's not just being cremated. There are a whole lot of other decisions. Do you want to be viewed before you get cremated? Do you want a visitation of any type? Do you want a memorial service? Do you want it at a place of worship or at our funeral home? Or do you want it at a restaurant? Or do you want to just be cremated and have your urn at the memorial service? Do you not want your urn present at all? And then there's the decision to be made, what happens to the cremated remains after?
Yeah, y'all, let's stop there for a second. Jacquelyn, she's off the chain with this, I'm telling you guys. I was like, no, Louis Vuitton only. It's been that way for a long time. But I heard about planting trees and sticking your ashes underneath the tree to help the tree grow.
And the tree grows.
And then you move, and where are you going to move? You can't move anymore now because your mom's underneath the tree in the front yard. What are you doing? What are you doing?
She's grown into the tree.
What are you doing, people? But she brought me this book. And if you guys will, in the comments below, get with me, I'll get you hooked up to Jacquelyn, and she can get with you, and obviously to plan things. But there's so much stuff in here.
And we have a link on our website to the online.
She was showing me there's like stuff you can stick on your coffee table. There's books.
Art glass.
There's this
jewelry.
like, who would have thought if you were a sailor you could stick something in a lighthouse? There's like footballs and bowling balls and ducks. Ducks? I mean, like,
a
there's
flask
I mean,
for the drinkers out there. There's a flask.
There's knives.
Jewelry.
I mean, like, the cats are like this. All the cats, they're like this. They're in boxes with their names in plaques. Very easy, so I know which cat's in which box, and which box goes in the Louis Vuitton trunk, so we're all together. But, you know, there's
jewelry
there's
you can put a fingerprint on and have your remains in, and each of your children have
crazy. Dying is not what it used to be. It really isn't. I mean, if you think about it, this is all new stuff. Like, this is crazy. And the options are almost endless. And that's the thing you two need to think about as well, is that you've got so many, like this bracelet here. Look at this bracelet. This is like a leather cuff bracelet that nobody would even know that you got your dad or your mom or your sister or your brother or whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, it's stuff that you gotta think through.
Think about it.
And if you're the person that's dying, which is the one we're talking to, me, you, Jacquelyn, if you know you want to be in a piece of jewelry for all your kids, then now's the time to decide that. Like,
well, and some people are very specific on, I don't want my remains separated.
Well, and I'm there.
Yeah, I keep me together. I want to be in one vessel, one urn. And then again, if that person hasn't put that down on paper or expressed it verbally or written it down, then the family sits there and the children go, well, I want a piece of mom, I want a piece of mom. And, oh no, mom didn't want that to happen. And then the kids argue. And again, my funeral director has to sit on the other side of the table and let the kids fight it out. And if they disagree on cremation, that's another thing. If you have not signed a direct authorization, if you have not pre-planned your arrangements with me ahead of time, then the children sit there and argue, and guess what? They all have to sign off on it. The cremation cannot take place until it's authorized by everyone. So if you do not have the one spouse and you have multiple children, every child has to sign that cremation form. And if one won't, then we can't do it because it can't be undone. So people, again, it's really difficult to talk about. And a lot of people say, well, I want to talk to my kids about it. And then the kids are like, Mom, we don't want to talk about you dying. It's just something I encourage people to do because, first of all, you get what you want, which I think is, for someone like me, that's one of the most important things. Mm-hmm. I have very specific thoughts on some things. I have other thoughts I haven't even made the decision on. But I want what I want. And I want to relieve my husband and my children from having to wonder what I wanted. Or even though she said it, she never wrote it down. Is that really what she wanted? Or, do you want to be scattered over the wine country? Do you want to be in a biodegradable vessel put in the ocean out to sea? Do you want to be planted with a tree to grow? Think about it and talk about it so that they don't have to wonder what you wanted. It's easy decisions for you to make. And then you relieve them not only of that emotional burden, but the financial burden.
Yeah, she was just telling me before we actually mic'd up to talk to you guys today for this episode that just in like the last few days in Houston, and so this funeral home is actually in Bel Air area, but the services are all over the city. I mean, obviously we're a huge city in Houston, and so there are services from all the way clear up to Conroe, all Montgomery County, all the way down to Galveston. So a 3 or 4 hour spread between all of the Houston and surrounding areas. But there's a family that just recently lost somebody in the family. They didn't lose them because you know where they are if they believe in Jesus, because this is a Christian channel. But the thing is that they ain't here with us anymore. And the opening only, not the plaque, not the casket, not any
just
of
the grave.
Just opening up the hole in the ground is $35,000.
And that's not the opening and closing.
No.
They also charge to open and close.
Right.
The $35,000.
So the thing that you got to think about too is the money. And that really is probably the most important reason for anybody, honestly, because you could just dismiss, you're going to die, whatever, let them figure it out when I'm gone. Great. But if you know that it's going to cost this much money to do whatever it is that you want done, and you don't get it figured out beforehand, then they're going to be in a big mess trying to pay for it.
Not only the emotional burden, the financial burden can be huge.
Yeah, because you can't just stick mom on the couch and let her sit there for a while until you figure it out.
Until you collect the money.
Until you can pay for it.
Do your GoFundMe.
No, and Nana, I'm going to tell you, y'all know, I've talked about Nana for years. Nana was 102. We had it all done. It was done. The color of the inside of her casket, the flowers that she wanted, the things that she wanted read, the things that she wanted said, the people she wanted saying it. Everything was done. The jewelry was already given away. We talked about that in a different episode from one of the people on the from the book. Give it away. Don't let them fight over things. Like when you know that you want this specific ring to go to this specific grandchild or this specific daughter or this specific daughter-in-law, give it to them way before, or tell them and put it in writing and have them have a piece of paper where they've signed it and they know that they're supposed to get it, so nobody else in the family can like screw around with that. Because at the end of the day, you want everything to be like a clean table. Like you just created a meal of your life and you've just cleaned the kitchen. And everybody can just come in the kitchen and they can make themselves a drink and they can cry and they can grieve and they can miss you. But they don't have to cook it and clean it up. Because what you're doing if you don't plan it early on is you're making them have to make decisions and then pay for things that many people just simply can't afford. What makes it affordable? Tell me that.
So, first of all, let's revisit the inflation part of it. Cost of funeral expenses has an average rate of inflation 6 to 12% every year. So your funeral costs today will be doubled in 5 to 10 years at least. So when you do your pre-planning arrangements, it's actually a whole life insurance policy. But it is specifically done through a company who only does final expense life insurance policies. So this is for your final expenses. You have all your wishes there. You pay for that today's prices. And you lock in today's prices. You pay for that. If you die 20, 30 years from now, and that same funeral that would cost $10,000 today, maybe 40 or 50 there, the insurance company pays the difference. It's the cost of insurance. So you not only relieve your loved ones of having to pay for that financial burden, but you've also saved a ton of money because you've prevented, you paid for it, you've locked in today's prices, you don't have to worry about that inflation, except for the things like flowers, obituary, those things that we can't control, not from the funeral home. The extras, you can still put an allowance for that on your policy and pay for it and put money there, but if you have in your policy that you want a spray on top of your casket of white roses, and today that spray is $400, you leave the allowance, 30 years from now that same spray may be $1,000, then they're going to have to come up with the difference.
Right.
But as far as our funeral services, the cremation, the burial, all of that, you lock in that price and the insurance company pays for any inflation. So it's the cost effectiveness of it, the savings that's there, the emotional burden, and then again, my funeral directors sit across families realizing what they have to pay, and they look at each other and who's going to pay, and one brother's the really wealthy guy and the other one's the one who never really quite got there, and well, why should I have to pay for mom's funeral? Well, because you have the money.
She made you.
Yeah, but you're not paying anything. Why am I? And then again, my funeral director just has to sit there and let them fight it out because we can't proceed until it's paid for in full. And there's another advantage to doing the pre-planning. You can do a payment plan, and you can either pay it all today if you want to, but you can do a 3, 5, 7, or 10-year payout and pay it monthly. And at that point, when you're doing it that way, it's not the one chunk sum. It's not like, here we are across from the table, I need $30,000 right now to bury your mom. If you pay it out over all those years, it's much less of a financial burden than trying to do it. So it's another advantage of doing it ahead of time. You can pay it out, you lock in today's prices against inflation, relieves the emotional burden, the financial burden, you get what you want, they don't have to fight about it. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
it just makes sense.
All the years, like, and you guys know because many of you followed me for forever. Mom got killed 31. Dad wasn't planning on that. Nobody was planning on that. She wanted to be cremated. Her parents didn't want her to be cremated. So Daddy buried her. Daddy bought 4 plots. Now he's buried beside her. So there's 2 more plots.
Who's going there?
Probably my 2 unmarried siblings. Because that may or may not sense. We don't know yet. But here's the thing. I mean, I'm not going to have to worry about that. Probably. I hope not.
You'll be in your Louis Vuitton.
But I'm in my Louis Vuitton. And I'll tell you the reason. And I told Jacquelyn I didn't tell her this story because I wanted to tell it for you guys and tell her at the same time. So you're getting the story. So we went to New Orleans, and such a haunted city New Orleans is. And of course, before I went to seminary, I didn't carry holy water with me everywhere I go, and now I have consecrated holy water everywhere I go. So I can sprinkle things and say things over things and take care of things before I have to spend the night with other things, the supernatural things that we don't want to be of this world. And so in the part of being there in the city, the first time we went and did a tour of the cemeteries.
Mm-hmm.
And they explained to me that during the bubonic plague, they had like a wall in the cemetery that had like spots that people could go into because so many people were dying in the family. So you had the vault, the raised above ground because of New Orleans and the water, raised above ground grave, and a slate thing that would be in there, and the person who had died would go in there, and then they would wait a year, and then there's a little lever, and you would turn it, and they'd turn the body, and that body would have decomposed in that concrete thing, and bones fall to the ground, and then they would go to the wall, and they'd get the next person who was in line that had already died, waiting in the wings. They'd pull them out of the wall, and then they'd put them in the family spot. You see them raised up all over the place.
Yes.
They're in there. Another year goes by. They shake it. It's because of the heat inside that concrete thing. They shake it. They dump them. So I kind of scratched my head and I said, so if I were to open up this box, this big concrete thing, which you guys have seen everywhere, like New Orleans and all the old cemeteries have, I would open up this thing, and in there would be like 17 skulls and a whole bunch of femurs and like a bunch of bones just mixed up together, kind of like that. And the guy was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is in there.
Wow.
And I said, okay, so I don't want that, but I don't want to be buried, like buried, because I told you guys about that with Mom and Dad and Granny and Big Daddy, and I just don't like it. I just don't like it. I don't like it. And I go home. We just came back from Thanksgiving, and I went home, and I'm the one in the family that makes sure there's flowers on Mom and Daddy's grave and Brian's Mom and Daddy's grave. And, I just think it's better if you're here at the house. And when Nana was here, she was still alive, I told her, I said, Nana, I need for you to come live with me. And she said, I can't do that because I know that you will not take me to Virginia and bury me, even though it's paid for. I know you'll cremate me and put me on the shelf with your cats, and then put me in the Louis Vuitton with you whenever you go. I know you, and I know that you won't take me to Virginia and do what I want. And I said, yeah, that's true. You wouldn't know any different. And
Did she have a plot in Virginia?
Oh yeah, beside Granddaddy, and Granddaddy had been dead forever.
That's where she went.
Yeah, she wants to be beside Granddaddy, but the problem with that is it's in Virginia, and I don't know where she's even buried at. I couldn't find her plot in Virginia if I tried.
And you probably worry about who's putting flowers.
Well, nobody's putting any flowers on there.
No one's visiting.
Nobody's visiting. At least you can put your foot up on the Louis Vuitton and visit me anytime you want to. So I decided, this is how this happened. I decided that I wanted everybody in individual boxes because I don't want the skulls all mixed up together. That sort of seemed a little weird, a little creepy to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to be out in the open air. And so I made the decision many years ago that we would get first off, if they can't afford it before I'm dead, or I can't afford it before I'm dead, then we've got a Louis Vuitton that'll hold me and Brian. That's the starting point. That's the starting.
And you've already got it.
It's already bought.
It's done.
I've carried it, worn it. It's good. It's carried diapers. It's carried pacifiers. It's worn through. It's a family thing that the children.
Where you belong.
Yeah. And there's even 2 little pockets on that particular Louis Vuitton that you can stick little love notes into me if you want to. Or whatever you need to do with yourself, you know what. But the thing is that it will grow to a trunk, and in the trunk will be everybody. And James Edward has decided that he will be responsible. He's also the one that raised his hand for the DNR. He could pull the plug on both Mom and Dad. So I thought that was fun because we had that conversation. Because that's the other thing we need to have a conversation about. Not today, but y'all need a will. You need to get your will in order. You need to get all that stuff done.
Get your house in order.
Yeah.
Get your house in order.
Get the will done, get funeral plans made. Because that way he can just be in charge of it. And he said, I will be in charge of it. I'll make sure that we're all in there, and we'll just move that trunk from house to house. And that way you visit me when you want to visit me, and I'm there if you don't want to visit me. I'm still there. I'm still with you anyway, right? Because when we are Christians, we don't believe that there's this like, poof, you're gone. we
just your body.
Yeah, and the body gets reunited with the soul in the new heavens and the new earth, and we're all bouncing around with no arthritis and no heart disease and no diabetes, and it's a good thing with our brother Jesus. But the thing is that for the stuff that's left here and the people that are left behind, I think that's a better plan. I like that idea. I don't want to be putting any jewelry. I don't need to be. I don't like that idea at all.
Everyone has their own feelings of it. It's really interesting being, talking to people and helping people make because like I said, no one thinks about it. We all know we are going to die. That's the only thing we all agree on. But then it's making all these decisions, and so many people really do not know. Like we're talking about, do you want to be kept together? Do you want everyone to have a little piece of you? And again, you can be scattered somewhere. You can grow things. There's so many options, and the art glass, a lot of people are doing that these days because it is a beautiful piece of art glass, and only you know, and only the people you share it with. But the pretty little white slivers in the art glass, that's the cremated remains. It's very obvious if you know when you look at it
what it is.
Yeah. But you can have it sitting on your coffee table and have guests over, and no one else, an urn, people usually recognize an urn, and some people get kind of like, oh, is that one of your loved ones over there in that urn? But if it's a beautiful piece of art glass, they don't even know, and
they're not going to know a thing about me in that Louis Vuitton.
That's right. Except, well, all of us will.
Well,
yeah. We know now.
Yeah. But, the other thing too is that whenever we're back and forth between the Florida house and this house, and we're in the countrysides, and there's all these churches, old churches, beautiful old churches, and the cemeteries are right in the church grounds,
yes.
The hallowed grounds of the church grounds. And I texted Father about 2 years ago, and I said, why do we not have a cemetery at St. Catherine's? Like, why are we not, with the land that we have with the church, not burying our people at the church? And he said, short answer is it's not allowed to be done anymore in Texas. Well, I have a problem with that. I really just have a problem with that. Like, if I'm going to be buried, Mother and Daddy, same thing at the Baptist Church in North Carolina. At the Baptist Church in North Carolina, there's no cemetery. Mom and Dad had to go to Lakeland. A cemetery where everybody and their uncle's buried. Like, it could be anybody. Like,
you got neighbors.
You got everybody from everybody else's everybody. So, which is, I'm not complaining about that, but what I'm saying is that I feel like if I was going to be buried, it would have to be at the church. So when I go to, like, Charleston, we just came back from Charleston, and I saw all these old graves, and there's the Presbyterian church in the 1700s, and beside this, right there in the garden beside the church, are people who have been buried in the 1800s, 1700s, whatever. That's the only acceptable way that I would be buried, would be right beside the church. And that's not possible or feasible at St. Catherine's. It's not possible or feasible at Santa Rosa Beach.
You just taught me something, because I did not know that wasn't allowed.
It's not allowed. And I don't like the idea of some
just being out in
random,
the field,
not random,
somewhere that's
no, I think the best case scenario, not trying to control things because the Holy Spirit's in charge, but the Louis Vuitton trunk is a better situation for me. Because if I can't be buried at church, now Brian's mother and daddy were cremated, and they're in the wall at the Methodist church.
Yeah.
That's all they have. They got a little wall, and there's not many places to be. It's not like they've got a room for like a gazillion people to be buried there or interimed there. They don't have a lot of spaces. But Mom and Daddy were not at the Baptist church, and Nana's not at the Methodist church in Virginia. And I don't know when they stopped doing that, but when I go to old cities, Charleston, Savannah, all the way, Mississippi, Alabama, all the way to Florida from Houston, all the old churches on the winding roads, not I-10, but if you go winding roads, you will see church after church that are all with their people buried right there.
Family plots.
No, it's the church family.
The church, yes.
Whoever went to church there got buried there. And in growing up in North Carolina, I go to the mountains with my grandparents, my mother's father and mother, and spend the summers in the Appalachian Mountains. And we went to Meat Camp Baptist, and it was a little tiny church on the top of a hill, a mountain, and all the way down this mountain are graves of all the people that went to that church. So that's cool too, but still on hallowed ground. I'm not convinced that these mass cemeteries are hallowed ground. I want there to be hallowed ground.
Yes.
I just have a problem with it. I just
You don't want to be buried next to an atheist.
I don't want to be buried next to anybody that did not believe in Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. I just am not interested in that.
Right.
You know.
It's a spin. And again, we cater to all faith denominations or lack thereof. All cultures. We've seen it all. Our funeral directors right now we have an amazing team, but they have over 50 years of experience between all of them. And we've seen it all. I don't think there's a situation or a circumstance that we haven't come across. And a lot of different cultures have different wishes, different things. Some cultures want to view the cremation. Other cultures or faith denominations are completely against cremations. So there's really, again, it's all a personal decision. And the only thing I want to encourage people to do is just make your own decisions. Just don't, because like I said in the beginning, there's 100 questions that have to be answered in the first 24 hours. Answer those questions for your family. And then that way, when it happens, one phone call. They call the funeral home. We have the file, and then all that your loved ones have to do is notify their other loved ones
and wait. Church people cooking up the potlucks.
Yeah, and that's it. And then wait for our funeral director to call you with the schedule and just tell you when to show up. And that's it. But no other decisions, no other planning. And it just, again, it makes it's such a difficult time when you lose a loved one, as you and I both know.
Yeah.
And the worst thing you have to do, you just want to grieve and pray and be with your loved ones and support each other and not have to sit there and make decisions. That's the last thing you want to do. And so I just think it's the best. Again, every time I sit with a family or a couple and they finish writing their policy, never one time do they leave not feeling so relieved. This morning I helped a lady and she said, "Oh, I feel like the weight of the world was just lifted off my shoulder. I can't wait to call my daughter and tell her what I just did." And it just feels good to relieve that burden. And I can't say enough about.
Well, and I'm going to say something else because, you're in the business of this and we talk about this a lot. I've been in the business for 27 years on births. Daddy delivered babies. I grew up with daddy being the OBGYN and mama delivering babies with daddy. And, so we're all planning all these baby showers and all these things that we plan and all this stuff, the excitement around it. And in so many instances, all these different parties evolve, and we get married and all these things that we do, right? When we're different seasons of our lives. Dying is not something to be afraid of. It's the next journey. It's the next thing. And it's just as important. And I don't want it to be half-ass. Like, I had 1,000 people at my wedding. I had the Charlotte Symphony Orchestra playing Vivaldi live as I walked down the aisle in the Baptist church. I had every prayer picked out. I had every scripture picked out. I want my funeral to be just as planned, just as perfect, just as exactly the way I wanted it on my wedding day.
That's right.
I don't want it to be just...
We're just going to cremate Mom and put her in her Louis Vuitton and put it on the shelf.
They probably would do something really... I know them. They're my family. They'd be like, "That's so over the top." James Edward will say that anyway when he reads the book. I think I'm going to write a book this year. What to do when I die. Like, not just
my final arrangements.
Yeah, like not just fill out your forms, but like, here's exactly what you're supposed to say, and these are the people I want to say it, if they're still alive. If not, here's the backup plan. Like, there's just a lot of stuff.
Well, and even, I know you and I talked about the viewing part, and we both, have not had great experiences with that. I think, for me, I want people to remember me the way I am, and that's probably not going to be the way I will look in an open casket. But there are those people who really, really, really want a viewing, and they feel like it's closure for their loved ones to be able to see them and say goodbye. But then that brings a whole nother set of questions. Do you want your glasses on? Is there a certain shade of lipstick that you always wear, and that's your lipstick? Because otherwise, again, in that process, we have our funeral directors who will select your makeup, and so what do you want to be like?
Now, my mother's best friend Nell came and did her makeup, and her hairdresser, because Mother wore, one of the reasons why I've always worn this wig is because, well, I haven't always worn this wig, but I've worn this wig for the past, since 1995 I've worn this wig, is because Mother wore her hair up in a bun, and I look just like my mother. And so it's the last sort of vestige thing of my childhood with my grandparents and them trying to get over mother dying and their baby dying and all that. And, you know, mother looked like mother because mother's hair was done by her hairdresser and mother's makeup was done by her best friend. I had not realized until you and I visited earlier that the funeral directors are the ones doing that, because I assumed that
everyone does that.
You would have, you know, if you've had somebody do your hair for the last 50 years, that's your hairdresser's coming in to do your hair.
Yes. I have a friend who's a hairdresser, and not very long ago she went and did, one of her clients had passed.
Yeah.
And her client had asked her, when I pass, will you please come and do my hair? And she did.
Yeah.
It made her a little uncomfortable because it was the first time she had ever
had to
do that on a deceased body. But so that is, people do that, and especially celebrities, like news people and people who are on the TV every day and have someone who's done their makeup, they will have their people.
Yeah.
So that is allowed. But if you don't have a particular hairdresser or makeup,
you could end up with a burgundy lipstick instead of a bright red.
Yes, it's the funeral director's choice, and they do. And again, like the glasses and the hairdo, and like my mom wanted to be buried in a lingerie set, a sleeping set. Some people want a suit, you know, and it's all that. It's those kind of little things, like, okay, you want an open cat. Well, how do you want your mom to be dressed? And then the kids start arguing about that.
Yeah.
She want to have on her pink robe.
People argue about a lot of stuff. I've been in the mall. I've been in the middle of all that kind of craziness, and y'all are just going to take my wig off, strip me down naked like I got here, throw me in the thing, burn me up. Because I found out that if you view me, you've got to embalm me. We're not paying for you to embalm me to throw me in the fire. That's the craziest mess. Why pay for that?
Now, a lot of
you don't need to do that.
A lot of people do.
I tell you what you need to do is you need to show up when I drop dead of the heart attack, and you can look at me on the floor here, and then they'll take me over to the fireplace.
That'll be your last viewing.
That's your viewing.
There's your closure.
Your viewing is as soon as I have gone.
Yeah. But people do it all. I mean, again,
I did not know that, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? You gotta pay to be embalmed, to be viewed, and then be cremated,
and also pay for the rental casket, because it's a casket just for the viewing. But it's very important for some people.
Yeah.
And again, and like this lady that I helped today, that is exactly what she's doing. She is going to do a viewing with a funeral service, and then she's going to be cremated. So, and then she's gonna they have a family plot, and she's gonna be buried. So there really are so many different ways to do it.
Yeah.
And it's just personal preference. You and I both definitely have some very definitive thoughts on what we know, because I think we've probably deal with death a little bit more than the average person.
Been around it a lot, and you know, I shake my head when people, they don't have it figured out, and I honestly don't have all of it figured out. I've said it enough times on this channel and to my family that they know.
But we're going to sit down
and
get it in writing
and have it finished up. You know, the will was last year. We had to redo the will because we did the will when the kids were little. And a lot of people do that. I've been encouraging you guys over the years, when you bring me these babies to be photographed, do the wills, because you've got babies now. So you have to have a will. Who's going to take care of them if something happens to you? Don't get on the same plane. If something happens to one plane, the other plane, both parents still alive. I'm a little bit weird like that, but that's because mom got killed when I was little. But the will stuff had to be fixed because James is 23 years old. I don't need Brian's brother, his uncle, taking care of him. He's able to take care of himself.
Right.
Like, we graduated from high school. We're almost graduated from college. Victorian, married, husband, baby. Isla Mae's here. Like, a completely different set of circumstances. So everything had to be redone based on that. And it was important to do that. And especially for me, going back and forth to Florida, I felt like if we get killed in the car, I need to make sure the children know, okay, well, who's going to pull the plug if we're hurt and we can't ever come back, or, you know, who's going to do what and who's going to do this, which all that changed because they were no longer minors.
Right.
Now that that's done, and they know where it is, it's in a folder. Now it's a matter of me actually physically writing down things like, okay, this is the hymns, these are the scriptures, this is what
I'll give you an obituary guide, and you can write your own obituary. That's another thing, that it's a huge burden to your family, especially when it's an unexpected death. And all of a sudden you have to write an obituary.
It's not an unexpected.
Nothing, no death should be unexpected. We are all going to die.
Brian's father died, and it was not an unexpected death. But he did not ask me to write the obituary, and I would have written it, because obviously I'm a writer, but he didn't ask me to write it, and I didn't write it, and we didn't have it, and then I came back here to shoot pictures because I was busy. He died during this time of the year, during the holidays. And so I just came back to Houston, and Brian was left there, and the siblings were trying to figure out stuff, and stuff that got said at the funeral wasn't even right.
Oh gosh.
And they were scratching their heads afterwards. They're like, "Oh, that's not right," but they'd already done it at the funeral, and so it's like I said, Jerry T is just laughing his ass off.
They got
Because
the details
like
of his life.
all the stuff is just you didn't do it right. You didn't say the same. It's not that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Something similar happened, but he didn't see certain things happen in certain places, and you said that he did, and I know he just thought that was so funny. Because
but again, it's like I said earlier, it's chaos when someone dies. No matter, even if you are prepared for it, even if they're in hospice, when it happens, you can't think straight.
Yeah.
And so then you have to sit and write an obituary and write down all the wonderful things they did in their life, and all you can think of is they're gone, and you're grieving, and yet you have to write a story about them. So again, that's something else that will be in your folder. I'll give you the obituary guide. You won't even need it. But for the rest of us, it's just a guide. What do you want mentioned?
Yeah.
How do you want to be honored?
Where
what
did you
legacy?
go to school?
Yes. What is your legacy?
Do?
And what branch of the Army? Don't
Yeah.
say he was a Navy captain if he was an Army sergeant. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's those kind of things.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for, we need to talk about veterans. That's something else that's really important.
Okay.
65% of veterans are misinformed on what their actual benefits are.
Okay.
So the Veterans Administration does pay for a lot, but they do not pay for everything.
Okay.
They pay for everything inside the National Cemetery. So they pay for that grave, they pay for the opening and closing of it, they pay for the marker. That's it. They don't pay for the funeral service or the memorial service or the cremation again, a lot of veteran families do not know that.
They don't realize that.
And the veterans think it's all paid for.
Ew.
And then they come in to sit with my funeral director thinking that all they need to do is make the schedule and then discuss the funeral arrangement, only for my funeral director to have to say, so this is what you're going to have to pay for. And then the look of shock on their face, well, what do you mean? The Veterans Administration is they don't pay for this part.
Right.
And so it's just the information to have. So then that veteran may decide a different service based on what he's going to have to come out of pocket and pay for, now knowing that the Veterans Administration is not going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So that's
give us an idea. It's 2025 for future reference, because the channel just goes on into perpetuity. So if you're watching this 10 years from now, you'll know that it was 2025 when you and I sat down and did our initial conversation about this. What's the average cost for things?
Again, it's all over the place depending on what you want. So for a basic cremation, nothing else. We're not doing a memorial service. We're not doing any of that. We are going to take the body into our care, have the cremation done, and return the remains to the loved ones. That's right around $2,000, right under $2,000.
Okay.
Then, of course, the embalming, the cost of the funeral director services, it all, that ranges. Embalming's around $800. And then you've got the cosmetology, making you pretty, the dressing and casketing, which is taking care of the body outside of the makeup and hair. So
right.
All of that has cost in the hundreds. Funeral service from funeral director expenses, about $2,800, right around $3,000. So again, it's all itemized on your policy,
right.
And you can make those decisions on every single line item. Do I want, so basic cremation starts at $1,900, $1,895, so call it $1,900, a full-on service, and then you get into the cost of a casket. The caskets can range in price from $2,000 upwards of $60,000, $70,000.
Let me tell you what.
Caskets are out.
Daddy went bonkers.
Emotional overspending.
Daddy went bonkers. I remember it as a child. She had a mahogany casket that was just stunning as far as caskets go.
Mahogany would be.
And then it was encased in another thing.
The outer burial container.
That's like stainless steel locked, airtight.
There's price ranges on that too.
Yeah. I mean,
sealed, not sealed. Yes.
Yeah.
It's all. So the caskets, again, they range in price. Then you pick the interior lining, like you said, John, the interior color, whether that's crepe, satin, velvet. That's on the inside. Then you have the outside, and yes, some of those, there's mahogany, there's steel, there's, all kinds of materials that can be used. Then for the casket to be put in the ground, there has to be an outer burial container. Again, some type of steel, sealed or not sealed. Again, depending on how people feel, a lot of people are worried about the worms and all the earth creatures.
Well, I remember
into
when
the
I was a baby.
caskets
I was a baby. I was 8 when Mama got killed. I remember asking Daddy about that, like several years after Mama was buried. I was like, Daddy, if we were to open Mama up in the casket, would she still look just like she did the day that we buried her? And he kept telling me that she would, because
what else is he going to tell?
He's not going to tell me anything else.
As a
But
child.
he kept telling me that she was sealed up, and that there was no water, and there was no bugs, and all this stuff. And over the years, I'm thinking there had to be water and bugs at some point.
If he did a sealed steel gauge, I can't, forgive me for all the little detail.
Yeah.
But there is one that they pretty much guarantee nothing's getting in there.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Daddy bought that.
But you pay a lot of money.
I'm sure Daddy bought it.
So, again, the cost can go anywhere from $2,000 to $80,000. I mean, and it's just anywhere in that range. $10,000 to $20,000 is a nice funeral service if you're doing a viewing and all of that. But again, if you get into the caskets and the outer burial containers and something,
So for those of you that don't feel like I do about this, pick it up and throw it in the inferno and, stick the wig on top of the Louis Vuitton, and you really want to be buried, I would encourage you to get on it.
Yeah.
Get on it now so that you have it sealed.
Yeah. Well, and here's another, we talked about the emotional burden on your family. There's also something that we call emotional overspending. And it's when, again, no plans are in place. The children are sitting there trying to plan this for their mother, who was the greatest mother on earth, and she gave us her whole life, and she never told us no to anything, and she worked 3 jobs as a single mom to take. What is your most expensive casket? She deserves it. And when all the children have money and no one really is in financial distress, and their only distress right now is that they're going to miss their mother, the emotional overspending, and it's not, our funeral directors are very careful with helping them know all of their price ranges and everything that's available, but sometimes they opt for what they think is the best simply because it's the most expensive. And then 3 months down the road, they're looking at each other across the table going, did we really spend $50,000 on a casket that's now in the ground that no one's ever going to see again? Did we really do that? It's like, yep, we did. And so It's that emotional overspending that happens because they're in distress and they're grieving, and you're just making all these decisions in such a quick moment. And if money's not something that you have to think about, lucky you, but you could spend a little bit more than is necessary and more than what Mom would wanted. And then sometimes there's the other kid going, Mom was so practical. She would be so mad at us if she knew we were spending this kind of money. She would want us to be practical and not do this. Well, but that's okay. She was the best mother ever. We have to do it. So then it goes into that conversation again where we just have to sit there and be patient. Let them make the decision.
See, I refer back to the Louis Vuitton trunk. If you want to go on a trip, you can just take me out of it and use it and pack your clothes and leave me on the shelf and put me back in it when you get back home.
Or take you with them.
Or you can do that. Well, no, I don't want to get lost somewhere. No, I'd like to stay in the house. But you know what I mean? I mean, I get it. It's just like, and so many people are. Most people are, honestly. This is the interesting thing. We were talking about this. Most normal people are distraught when people die.
Of course.
And one of the things that for me, it's kind of, I'm always like a zoomed out bird in the air looking down on it. My response to death is so different. It was already different because of the trauma from Mother and then all the death I've seen in my life. But now that I've finished seminary, I'm like, whatever. It's just not, it's a non-issue.
You're going to be with them again.
Yeah, it's a non-issue.
Yeah. They're just waiting for me somewhere. They went to the party ahead of me.
Yeah. It's a non-issue, but so many people are, and I can see where it would be very easy to just get in a spiral downward of debt, and that's what you don't want your family members to have either.
We've seen that happen too, where they will take out a loan to honor the legacy of their loved one, and I mean it happens and. Yes, it is quite the burden. So I can't encourage people to plan ahead
more. Yeah, you have to come see her. Well, before we get done with this episode, I want you to know in the episode notes she'll have all the details to how to get a hold of Jacquelyn and all of that. The thing that impressed me when we were at the book signing was all these cute little books that she's got. It's all kinds of interesting ways that we grieve. It's grief right now during the holidays because a lot of people are doing that. And then, of course, you've got the animals, which, this last trip around the sun with William was tough, but it wasn't as tough as it was with Christopher Thomas.
I hope that has helped.
Because Christopher Thomas was tough because I hadn't done seminary. And, he died and he was 22. And then William was the backup. Like, William was, and now we've got this wonderful Elijah, which God is so good, he always provides me with a blonde male cat. But you had included it. Pet loss, animal companions. This is stuff people don't think about. They don't understand.
But it's a grief. It's real grief.
It's sometimes harder to deal with this than losing. And I say this very, very, not lightly. I say this seriously. But for me, because of losing mom when I was 8, I'm really close to my cats.
Yeah.
I'm not really close. Wasn't.
Most people are. Their dogs and their cats are their family.
It's really a
and
significant loss.
Just in full disclosure, we don't, we can't do I have been asked if we can do cremation on animals, and we don't.
Well, no, the vet does.
There's special vets and special places for.
Yeah, the vet does.
But it's more of and on our website we have a link to grief resources, which we have extensive aftercare for our families and provide incredible grief support resources and aftercare projects. We'll do flower arranging or pottery painting, things like that, to help them transition from grief. And of course, that's usually when they start thinking about their own stuff. So then we're there to answer questions. But yeah, this was all part of our grief support, losing a spouse, losing a parent, losing a sibling, all of it, and a lot of us, like, you lose your grandparent and that's kind of, okay, we're all going to lose but you don't always expect to lose. I lost a brother when I was 9 years old. Yeah. So same as you. I was very young age.
Well, no.
All of a sudden being faced
Sam
with death.
just killed himself last year. So this was about a year ago, right around Thanksgiving is when he did that. Jennings killed himself, my nephew, 9 years ago, right after the children Victoria and Justin got married, at 19. Sam was 13 years younger than me, and I'm 55. So, and he was a veteran, and we don't know a lot of the details about it, but, he was here 1 minute, the next minute he was gone, and he did it. And, it's like I wrote about in my chapter for the book. Go get the book on grief and good journeys.
So you lost your mom young and lost your brother when you were older, and I lost my brother when I was young, and then lost both my parents when I was
older.
Yeah, but but again, you don't, like I said, we all kind of expect to grieve our grandparents if we're lucky enough to even have had them.
Yeah.
And you kind of think if everyone's natural, we probably will lose but you're not always prepared for the loss of a sibling or a friend or a nephew or a niece or a child. Nothing worse than that, I think.
No.
My heart bleeds for parents who've lost, my mother was never the same.
Yeah.
I say I lost my mom when I was 9 years old too, even though I was in my 40s when she died, because
they're just changed. They're changed.
Yeah.
They're changed.
So these are all, again, we have resources, and I'll make sure you have our link to our funeral home on this, and then also in there, when you get into our website, there's a link for grief support, because it is truly, and sometimes it doesn't hit you right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's the stages of grief. In the beginning, you're in shock. You may be in denial. You're making all these arrangements and decisions. You're cleaning out the house. You're getting rid of the estate. You're selling the house. There's still things, unfortunately, I can't help you with after the service. You have to go back and finish tidying up all the details and taking care of closing everything up. And it may be 6 months to a year later that you actually sit down and allow yourself to grieve and to feel it, or you go to pick up the phone to call and, oh shoot, they're not alive anymore. I can't make that. I still pick up the phone to call my dad. He's been gone 4 years, and something great will happen, and I just go to grab the phone to call, and it's just that grieving is really something we all do differently at our own pace and in our own way.
Yeah.
And a distinctive life, I will say. I think that sets us apart from some of the other funeral homes, because we really do take care with our families after. We don't forget about them after the service. We keep in contact. We follow up with them. Because a lot of times people can go, as we said, down this rabbit hole, and sometimes it's not a good rabbit hole to go down. And we're there to just help them through the process, provide resources for them, help them get through it. Because even when it's planned for, it's still something that's really difficult to do.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's no joke.
Yeah. That's why the Journeys to Goodbye book was so, I loved reading it, because the stories, just, we all go through it in different ways, and we all learn different things. Some people find their faith through a loved one dying, and they all of a sudden find their faith again, because it's what gets you through. When you realize it's the way and the truth, it is what gets you through that grief, because then you do look at it as they're the lucky ones. The ones they left here on earth grieving them. We're the ones who
are to hang out in Satan's kingdom for a little while longer with all of their temptations and supernatural
because they went to the party before us. Yeah. They're saving a place for us.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you guys have found some value in this. I know that you have. I know I have. I've enjoyed visiting with Jacquelyn, and it's not a great topic to have to talk about. Nobody's even pretending that it is, but it's a topic that we have to talk about. And maybe as you go into 2026, start making some plans for things that you need to get done. Check off your list this year. You'll get on the phone. You'll go into the comments. You'll find the information. Text me if you need to. I can send you Jacquelyn's information directly. Get in and figure out what you want to have happen, and just get it started.
Yes.
It's not going to be a huge expense if you start it and you get going on it. It's a really huge expense.
And you do payment plans now too.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And get it as part of the things that you get done this year. Your will, your plans. Just get it done. That way, it's just one less thing.
Get your house in order.
Yeah.
Get your house in order so that your loved ones can just do what they have to do without worrying.
Yeah. So, in the meantime, I hope you found some value in it. If you do, and you did, like and share, and we'll see you soon on Sweet Life in Christ. We're going to do a Sweet Life in Christ. We'll just do it as Sweet Life in Christ. We were talking about that earlier. Where do we fall in all this with the playlist? Well, this is really Sweet Life in Christ. So we're going to talk about that way. So anyway, we'll see you soon on the channel.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. We'll see you soon. Take care.